Hi folks, in this video I'm going to talk about the mysterious visitor, which is one of the subplots in Zosima's backstory. Remember I said that salvation works through a kind of chain of connection from Brother Markle to Zosima, and the memory and the human relationships between them is what allowed Zosima to get saved. And then between Zosima and Alexei is where this is going next. But besides Alexei, Zosima actually has this impressive spiritual connection and influence on the mysterious visitor. Like all the Dostoevsky subplots, I think this one has so much to tell us about the main storyline. And this is, again, you might think, okay, this is just this tiny little digression that fills some of these 800 pages. How could this be so significant? I think it's incredibly significant, and that's why I asked you to read these pages carefully. Let me tell you some of the facts about what happens. Of course, the mysterious visitor is this older man who is perfectly upstanding in the community. He's looked upon as a philanthropist. He seems like the perfect good Christian in his small town. But in fact, he has a burning guilt inside of himself that is eating himself alive because he has killed a woman like a decade ago, and somebody else got blamed for it. So her servant got blamed, and then her servant actually died. And so in many ways, this is precisely the sort of thing that he might eventually forgive himself for, or rest assured, he is not, his conscience is not killing him because he thinks he's going to get caught. It is quite unambiguous that he is safe, and yet he still can't live with the guilt of it. So what is this doing? Why is this wrong in Dostoevsky's worldview? Well, that's what this can tell us, and that's how it can really help us understand what is salvation for Dostoevsky. What is the authentic way to live? Let me say, I'm not making it up when I say this has so many connections, and Dostoevsky is really telling us that this is connected to our main plot. Notice this. So when he kills the woman, he says, with infernal and criminal calculation, he arranged things so that the blame would fall on the servants. This is clearly foreshadowing Smirjikov ripping open the envelope and taking the 3,000 rubles and throwing the envelope on the ground just precisely to make it so that the blame would fall on Dmitri's shoulders. And of course, it's an ironic twist that, of course, it's the servant Smirjikov who is getting Dmitri blamed, but there is no doubt we're supposed to understand this parallel. Of course, if you didn't get it yet, then you might in the next page. See what happens with this, the servant who ends up getting blamed. He was just out in the tavern, drunk and angry and threatening to kill her. Of course, this is precisely some of the evidence that was used against Dmitri in his trial, that he was raving in the taverns drunk, talking about how he was going to kill his father. And then next, when he's caught, the servant actually has blood on his hands. And of course, we all know Dmitri had blood on his hands. It was not Fyodor's blood, but he was blamed because it was actually Grigory's blood. But he was blamed for his father's death. He was caught red-handed too. So these parallels are unmistakable, and clearly Dostoevsky is foreshadowing what's going to happen next, because this servant is misblamed. It's a case of mistaken blame, and the same goes for Dmitri. So what we're going to see is we see a direct foreshadowing of Dmitri getting blamed. But this is the funny thing: Dmitri is not blameworthy. If the message is right that we are all guilty for all, then Dmitri should accept. If he is going to get saved, then in the end of this novel, he should accept his guilt. That he is not innocent, that he does have bloody hands in certain ways, or in metaphorical ways. We're all stained and in need of redemption. Okay, now, just to give you one, just to get the payoff then. So I hope I've convinced you that this story is relevant, but it's relevant in even the direct way in which it gets paid off, because what Zosima does to the mysterious visitor, the visitor is dying to solve this problem. And of course, what he's been doing is he's been suffering alone. He's been going the way of isolation. And that is precisely what has not worked for him. So again, we're seeing this contrast between Zosima and Markel's worldview and the Ivan and mysterious visitor's worldview. And what Zosima does is he quotes John 2:12-24, which, remember, is the epigraph to the novel. And we will see this in several of the most crux climactic points in the novel. Is Dostoevsky keeps coming back to this exact same thing. So make no mistake, this is Dostoevsky's central set of themes. Now, So if you don't remember if you don't remember your John 12:24, here it is again. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. So I think the straightforward way to read this, as it applies to what Zosima is saying to the mysterious visitor, is you our experience of sin, we must actually accept our guilt for our sinful nature. That is what it is to fall down into the ground and die. Because if you're not willing to do that, you are going to end up alone. You are going to abide alone and pursue the route of isolation, and that is the route of damnation and hell in Dostoevsky's symbolic structure. But if you're willing to do this, which seems like death, which seems like the horrible thing to actually be a sinful or admit that you're a sinful person, that is what's going to pay dividends. So the fruit metaphor, I think this is the way in which we are going to find love, find healing for Dostoevsky, and also be able to create love by entering into these human communities where we can then buoy and sustain others' salvation, because we are strengthening the bonds by getting ourselves saved so that other people can get saved too. That is the positive message for Dostoevsky. Okay, so what happens is the guy eventually confesses. The mysterious visitor does confess. He still dies. Now, of course, these mystical relationships don't suddenly make you immortal. Remember, Brother Markle, Zosima's brother, dies. The mysterious visitor dies, and is still a troubled figure. So I don't mean to paint him in very simplistic terms. He's a really complicated figure in the book. But he gets this salvific experience. He feels joy and peace because he has abandoned the road of isolation and he has done the public confession. Now, there's a whole lot of irony because he is not actually believed. And I think what Dostoevsky is telling us something quite subtle here, and this is why this provides a really interesting example for Dostoevsky's worldview, is you have to confess yourself. It is the communal experience that is essential. And insofar as he does not get acknowledgement from others as to his actual nature, they don't recognize him for who he is. He isn't believed. Then there still is a problem with there. So that's the way in which he is not, I think, 100% here. He doesn't have the most authentic way to live in Dostoevsky's worldview, and that I think explains partly his troubled situation. Even though he's experiencing joy, everything is not completely right for the mysterious visitor. But what happens is he does have this transformative experience, and it connects in many ways with this talk of the sacred and the spiritual. So I will come back to this. I think this is one of the key parts of the John 12:24 message for Dostoevsky. And we're going to see the same message play out later on in the novel when we talk about the fates of the Karamazov family. So I'm laying the groundwork here for it. See this talk, you'll see this, Dostoevsky talks about other worlds. This is from the homilies of Zosima, and this I think is really key because it connects to this mystical experience, which allows us to redefine ourselves in the world for Dostoevsky. So he says, much on earth is concealed from us, but in place we've been granted a secret, mysterious sense of our living bond with the other world. I think several things are important here. One is it is shrouded in mystery. It has to do with the feeling, and you can't just get to it by reason and rationality. You have to be in touch with the emotional side of being a human. That is essential to us and for us to become whole. It also has to do with us in the living world right now. So it is our world now, and us now. It is the earth that has connection to the sacred. So I think this talk about other worlds, the metaphor or symbol here is the sacred experience that we can have now. And this talk of seeds in John 12:24, the seed, Dostoevsky talks about seeds in these other passages when he's talking about other worlds and mystery. This is the key connection to this set of symbols. God took the seeds from the other worlds and sowed them on this earth. So you can redeem your life on this earth, and you can have this connection to the mystery. So God's garden here is the material physical world in time that we're living in, but it lives and grows only through its sense of being in touch with other mysterious worlds. So this is what explains our connection and the possibility for us to get redemption if we can get in touch with the sacred or the spiritual. And this talk about this connects that experience and that ability for us to get saved precisely with the central metaphor of John 12:24 about sowing seeds and growth, which are of course these agricultural metaphors. You know, these are deeply earthly metaphors that talk literally of seeds and growth. And so I've said it before, but I'll just repeat the point. This is going to be the key to understanding how we can actually unify ourselves and come to a kind of mediation and come to wholeness as individuals, and see nature, see the world in a different way. I've emphasized how it requires a connection to nature. I think the connection to community is also absolutely essential for Dostoevsky. And at one point, following these passages, he says, and this is Zosima literally saying it, if there are two of you who come together thus, there is already a whole world, a whole living love. I mean, 2 points here. One is this is about community. You can't go this alone. You can't just, this is not a Protestant Christian conception of salvation where you can just, confess your sins to yourself or think about God in the right way and get saved. Accept Jesus as your savior and then you're good. That is not the message here. It is about community. And the other is you are already saved. If you can do this, you are saved now. You don't have to wait until you die and then get transformed into heaven. This is a message for how we can live our lives. Now, let me say my last point is this might sound a little bit cheesy when I'm talking about we can all be redeemed as long as we find love. And this might make you think when I talked at the beginning of this course about how there are no easy answers in existentialism. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. This does sound like there's a cheesy message at the heart of Dostoevsky. We can all find redemption through love. All you have to do is suffer in the right way. Or as Dostoevsky puts it really quippily, which could have been in one of these self-help novels, love is the teacher. All you have to do is know how to acquire it. And just for $9.99, I'll tell you how to acquire it if you buy my book, and then you'll be saved. This does sound a bit like self-help glop, but that's why you have to read the 800-page novel, or you have to read the important 100 pages of it in order to get the message. Because what does it really mean to be able to find redemption through suffering? Or how do you know how to acquire it? Only by really paying attention to the way in which Dostoevsky thinks we can do these things are we really going to get any truth to his message if it's there. So these summaries really don't do it justice. You have to look at the details. You have to understand how he thinks this is possible, and then you can decide if this speaks to your soul and your human condition or not. Okay, thanks.